When we're kids, we tend not to fear the world. Why would we? When I was a kid, all I needed was a blanket on top of me and I knew I would be protected. Unfortunately, that's not the case for people who live in Brazilian favelas. This is João Pedro Matos, a 14-year-old boy who was found dead inside his house after his parents left for work and he was alone to take care of his children. Good afternoon, my name is Thaisa Raval and today we'll be talking about the lack of basic education for children living in Brazil. With the conditions that are happening in Brazil right now, the question arose. To what extent has the lack of basic education in Brazil impacted the lives of adolescents and their chances of future career opportunities in the last century? And after my research, I concluded that due to the lack of education from both parents and the system and the increase in child labor, children unfortunately are not finishing school, therefore not succeeding. Increase in child labor. Child labor has become a big problem in Brazil. Because of the unemployment rates rising, kids are being forced to leave their day-to-day activities to pursue some type of jobs. Most of the time so that they can have a next meal. In this table shown by IBGE, the Brazilian Institute of Geography and Statistics, it shows people from age 6 to 17 who are not currently studying in a school. By 2019, 710,000 kids were not enrolled in schools. And the estimate is that for right now, 4 million kids has not gone back to school after the pandemic started. In this other table shown by the same institute, it compares the 710,000, it shows that the 710,000 kids that are not actually in school, of them, 162,000 are not in schools because they're working or because they're taking care of another child, elderly, or disabled person. This is alarming because kids are giving up on their future and on their education simply to survive. Not enough schools are available. Unfortunately, in Brazil, the problem extends as more from adolescents' behavior. It stretches out to politics, as everything else. In this table by IBGE as well, it shows that about 19,000 people are not going to schools simply because there is no school available or because schools is too far away for them. Brazil has not been really lucky with politicians lately. The main reason for that is corruption. In 2010, 1.2 billion reais, or an estimate of $240 million, was stolen by our education system by the current president. And a more recent example would be in 2022, where 280 million reais, approximately $55 million, was stolen from education to agriculture. In a study done by Todos pela Educação, which is an organization that seeks to fight for the education systems, shows that only 4.5% of the total public high schools in Brazil actually has the basic infrastructure to teach. The survey was based on the 2015 school census, and it compared the access to electricity, treated water, sanitation and solid waste management, access to sports, and access to culture. This shows that in Brazil, the problem is not only the availability of schools, but the infrastructure that they have. We have schools, but they're not good enough to teach people. Finally, the lack of parental guidance. According to UNICEF, about 70% of parents in Brazil leave their children at home so that they are able to work. This is only contributing to children going to illegal business. Professor Rafael Acaldipani, a professor in Getúlio Vargas Foundation, one of the most important universities in Brazil, actually explains two reasons for that. The first one being, there's not enough schools, therefore children are not being educated. And the second one, they don't have any role models. Children staying home alone compare these criminals and start seeing them as role models and wanting to have a life like them, bringing them into this illegal business. There's one main type of illegal business in Brazil, which is trafficking. And then trafficking breaks down into two types: drug trafficking and sexual trafficking. As in regard to drug trafficking, 1 out of 3 arrests in Brazil people are being charged because of drug trafficking. And then 13% of the boys that are actually selling the drugs in the streets are between the ages of 10 and 12. And then, as in regard to sexual trafficking, in a research done by Caroline Ferraz, an activist in Brazil, in her academic paper, she shows that actually in 2014, 14% of overage men in Brazilian favelas have reported knowingly having sexual relationships with underage girls from ages between 10 to 17. And that in exchange for money and goods. And goods, as I mean for goods, is food. They are having sexual relationships in exchange for food. In this table right here, it was given for us by Fundação Casa in São Paulo, which is a jail for underage people, normally between the ages of 12 to 20. In this table right here, it shows that from the 5,269 people they have arrested by the time, 2,670 of them were because of drug trafficking. More than 50% of the jail is consumed by people who were arrested because of drug trafficking. Solutions to the problem are available. The most important solution we need to find is a way to take children from their houses and actually put them somewhere that they can learn. For that, we can implement social programs like Instituto Neymar Jr., where the soccer player invests in favelas in Brazil and give the opportunity to the children to actually go somewhere during the day instead of staying at home. And as well as full-time schools. What are full-time schools? Are schools that kids stay from 7 a.m. until 5 p.m. about the time their parents will be out of their house, and then they are able to they're able to learn while the parents are at work. Maximizing production time. By this, I mean for the parents. Parents need to maximize their production time at work so that they're able to gain more money and therefore have more household profit. Increasing minimum wage and government investments. These people need help. If the government doesn't do anything for them, change will not happen. Of course, there is limitations. So there is not enough funds. The government is not organized enough to make sure that the money is being distributed correctly. There is a big problem in Brazil, which is meritocracy. This concept is not widely accepted, and therefore people who are working more will not get paid more. And lastly, convincing children and not having enough staff. Children have been living in this way of life for as long as they can remember. So convincing them to go to a social program and to a full-time school will be harder. This is my work cited. Thank you so much.
All right, 2 questions I have for you. First one, what information did you need that you weren't able to find? And then how'd you go about looking for it?
So at first, I couldn't find any information in regarding to parents actually leaving their children at home because it is illegal in Brazil to do so. But I was able to go to UNICEF and find an estimate, and that's as close as I could get to the information.
Okay, and explain the level of certainty you have about your solutions and recommendations.
I feel that my solutions and recommendations can be the solution to the actual problem. The only thing that it will cause for that, they need the opinion of children and their willingness to do stuff in regards to it.
You're done.